Hello there, this is my IceWM desktop that I've been using for the last couple of weeks, and in today's video I am going to demonstrate how I've set it up and talk to you a little bit about the process. Now, there isn't actually too much to say, or too much to show you rather, in regards to this desktop. A lot of it is down to sort of the day-to-day sort of uses, the nuances between like window managers and the desktop environments I've used before. So what I've come from is XFCE on the latest Debian stable release, which I've been incredibly happy with. But I think might have been a Freebooters episode, or when me and Drew were hanging out, we were talking about like IceWM and like more customable minimalist desktops, and we were actually quite surprised to see that IceWM, despite it being a window manager that like many of you folks are going to know from decades ago, it seems, and I think it is, like I seem to remember it from, I don't know, I want to say like the 90s, but at least like early 2000s, and it's still being maintained to this day. And that's kind of cool. Like Fluxbox, I think it's been a while since that's been maintained, and a lot of them have fallen to the wayside, as projects tend to do. And there's a lot of new ones that come up and sort of, fill the same or similar niches. And yeah, IceWM, despite being incredibly sort of mature, is still being maintained to this day. So I wanted to find out like what it was like to use as a day-to-day desktop environment. Now you may notice that right here I've got Thunar running. So if I go to the About page on Thunar, yeah, so that's like Thunar, relatively recent version. So I'm using a lot of the XFCE tools because I do have my XFCE desktop that I've always been like, I've got zero issues with XFCE. Like in terms of performance, it's excellent. In terms of functionality, it's excellent. It doesn't like make grand paradigm changing changes to it, so that it's just a very consistent layout. And some people say, well, yeah, it's showing its age a little bit now, but it's a traditional workflow, and I kind of like that. You learn a sort of set routine, and it doesn't, and I've changed a lot of my desktop use over the years, so it's not necessarily that I'm averse to change, but I think that XFCE genuinely does do a lot of things right, and it moves slow and deliberately rather than moves fast and break things. And yes, we've seen the likes of GNOME and even KDE move fast and break things before. Now, both of those desktops are fine. I'm not here to, yuck anyone's yums, as they say. But I definitely am an XFCE person. It's that perfect balance between functionality and it doesn't do too much. So I wanted to see if I was going to go further into like a more minimalist desktop setup, whether or not what I would gain, what I would lose. Now XFCE, as far as I'm aware, now I've got a pretty modest computer. It's not like a powerful machine by any stretch of the imagination, but there really is not really much in the way of performance that can be gained from moving away from XFCE. Maybe I could shave off a few corners here and there, but as we all know, the modern web, which is what I probably spend a lot of time doing, or at least have, like you can see even there at the bottom of my desktop there, I've got a web browser window open. It's Firefox and on YouTube. So any savings that I make on a desktop environment are going to be easily wiped out in one page of a website or whatever. So this isn't, it might have once been about trying to save as much memory as possible, as much CPU space as possible, CPU cycles as possible, whatever. But nowadays, to me, it's more about just finding something that's snappy, that does exactly what I want, that I can set up exactly as I like. And one of the things I do like about IceWM is that they do it all through a small number of configuration files. You've got a startup script. I haven't actually checked to see if my shutdown script works, but really what my shutdown script does is just it cleans out all the cache files and all the gunk and stuff like that. Just keeps on top of things, and then startup. I'll show you some of these in time. But as you can see, what I've got at the top here, this is not the path to your standard IceWM config directory. It's in so mine would be home/chris/.icewm. But what I've done is I've done a symlink over to my sync folder, so that way any changes I make will be backed up backed up to my sync solution. So. Just looking at it from the surface right now, you can see that I've actually taken a lot. If you load up a standard IceWM window manager, you'll notice that it's got things like CPU gauges on it, RAM gauges, network gauges. It's got a start menu that I think uses like an X free desktop standard or something, which means that like there are lots of weird like sub menus and things that are put in places that aren't necessarily what you'd expect. So a lot of people might want to either customize the IceWM menu, which I think is available in one of the config files. It might be here, it might not be, or using a separate menu solution. So what I've done for my menu solution, I've got two. First off is if I press my mod key, so like a Windows key or a super key or whatever, and A, this brings up the XFCE application finder. I've made a few tweaks to it, made a few changes to it, but I can scan through all my programs here. So I could do like OBS, for example, and then it throws up OBS. It's a very nice launcher. It's incredibly quick. It's incredibly forgiving with what your search terms are, and I do use that quite a lot. So it's something that I don't really use menu-based applications now. Like I use a search-based application menu rather than a like a Windows 95 version. It just seems to make a lot of sense to me. But in the spirit of minimalist desktops, I've also got D menu. So if I press, and I don't know, not all keyboards have this, but you know, there's like on more fuller keyboards, there's like a context menu button on the bottom right of the main bit of the keyboard. So usually like next to the Windows key, if you've got it, it's next to my function key because I've got a 75% keyboard. You press the menu key and it brings up DWM, and then I can do so, for example, something like type in Firefox, and there we go. Firefox is right there. Or I can do like OBS. Yep, OBS is right there. So I can do something like that, or I could do mouse pad. You get the idea. And that's really quite good as well. So I just do type, and then go. And I really like that actually as well. The only thing about XFCE that I like a little bit more is that it's more like with D menu, you have to type in like the executable file name in the /user bin or whatever it is, whereas with the XFCE menu you can be a little bit more forgiving. I think you can probably type in something like web browser or whatever, some of the tags, and it also picks those up, and it's just as fast. And I don't know, it's a little bit more like the icons give you something else to like hold on to as well. Like it's just a little bit more recognizable, and I do like when it comes to icon themes, I like using as much information that you can in an icon to like sort of recognize something. So I don't like flat themes too much, or like color schemes too much. I don't know if you've like seen the graphic of all the Google services, and it just uses those same like 4 Google colors, and it just changes the shape for all the Google services, and it makes it difficult to determine what's one Google service and another, because they don't use color as any kind of information mechanism in their icon themes. So it's ridiculous. Like with I don't know if you use GIMP or GEMP, the GNU image manipulation program. Some of the newer versions of GEMP have like a monochrome icon theme in the toolbar, and that's just ridiculous because it just makes it unnecessarily more difficult to tell the difference from program or from tool to tool when you want to like convey that information as easy as possible, make it as easy as possible for the end user, not as aesthetically pleasing as possible, which is it's kind of ludicrous that particularly free and open source software people would go down this route, especially considering particularly the GIMP people who have resisted the traditional paradigms of corporate identity by even calling it GIMP. Like no one's going to come along, no big tech company is going to come along and buy GIMP out. Like it's just not with a name like that. It would just be awful PR, and that's the genius of the name. Don't get me wrong, there's problematic elements with it elsewhere, but the fact of the matter is it's corporate proof, and that's kind of excellent and kind of genius. Yet they've made some dumbass mistakes, like brought in monochrome color theme. You can go back to the legacy icons, so it's a minor issue, but like, yeah, you want different colors so you can distinguish between one or the other, so that it's just more information in a quicker space of time. So mild rant over. So yes, as you can see at the bottom, also I've decided on an XFCE, an IceWM theme that looked particularly IceWM-y. Particularly like a little bit retro, a little bit outdated, and a little bit like with a little flare in the middle, so you can see the icon, the title bar has just got a little border around it like that. Like, I'm throwing myself into the IceWM way of life, really. So what else have I done? I've gotten rid of all icons except for the clock, which I'm still not entirely sure about it, right? Because I've got a whole bunch of shortcut keys which I use to. So for example, for clock, I use mod and O for o'clock. And then it gives me Thursday, 31st of July, 2025, local time, 6 minutes past 2. And then New York, LA, and Brisbane, Australia. They are all like, people I know online. It's like it's a quick way to just basically work out whether or not I know people, what time it is for other people that I know. So it's kind of handy there. And that uses, I forget, people are going to know what it is, but I forget the notification send application that I use. It's the one that just default comes along with IceWM. And I was going to theme it, but I decided that I'm probably not going to be sticking with IceWM after this video. So as a result of that, I didn't really bother to theme it. But that's kind of awesome. So yeah, in my system tray, so me and Drew have been talking a lot. Drew doesn't have a system tray on his desktop. And he uses a lot of these kind of like shortcut keys when he wants to view some information that you'd otherwise look to the bottom right-hand corner or wherever it is of your screen. Now here I've got my network applet. And I kind of like that because, as you can see, there's a little lock in the corner of it, which means that my VPN is activated. I like to know if my VPN's on at a moment's glance, right? Like, just to know, am I currently protected at this moment? I kind of like it. And then I've got my my cloud solution filing there as well. And also, yeah, like I kind of like to know. So it changes, the icon changes in filing to let you know whether or not it's syncing or anything like that. So if I'm experiencing a little bit of slowdown or a little bit of latency online, for whatever reason, I can, I can glance down at that icon and I can see whether or not that, for example, would be using up a lot of speed or using up a lot of like internet bandwidth or whatever. That being said, I could live without it, and I could again do a shortcut key on filing just to like bring it up. But it's nice to know when it's running in the background, particularly since, like I do use it as one of my backup solutions. If my hard drive or computer disappeared tomorrow, at least my files are somewhere that I can get access to them. I have other backup storage solutions, but at the end of but it's always good to have like one option where it's off-site, at least for some of the files that you really don't want to end up losing. Like receipts and photographs and stuff like that. Where it's like, you can't like replace memories and stuff like that. So there's that. So yeah, and I think, well, I can probably do without the clock, but the thing is, it's like you're working around your day-to-day, you kind of, and I could even replace it with an actual physical clock. That's, there's an option. I've got walls in front of me, so I could be like, I'll buy a clock. Or if I wanted to check the time, shortcut. Also, you can't, I'm sorry, I've just noticed that my, I can move over. There we go. That's what it looks like, So there we go. And of course, you can see I've got OBS down there at the bottom. That is because I have a monitor just off to the left-hand side here where OBS is running. And that's why you can see, all those things down there. So what do I like about IceWM? So one of the things I like about it is that it does all of its settings. There are other ways to do settings, but in reality, in practice, you tend to do them through config files. You want to do them through config files because that's the easiest way. And this is, for example, my preferences file. And yes, interestingly enough, I've taken to using Mousepad as my like GUI text editor. It's recently brought in like a whole bunch of new. So if I go to like edit, all I need out of a text editor really is a spell check and a few of the usual like normal stuff. Like, I mean, it's got tab documents support and all that kind of stuff. All the basics, and it's super fast, and I kind of like it. So there we go. But I'd be interested as well. Like, just leave a comment, get in touch with me on the Fedi or whatever. Like, what do you use for text editing? And like, I know that there's going to be like a huge number of you guys are going to go Vim or VI or Emacs or anything like that. And by all means, feel free to tell me why I should be getting into Vim. I will do one of these days, I'm sure, just because everyone says so. The peer pressure will eventually break through. But is there anything GUI centric that you folks particularly like or would recommend, and if so, why? Because I'd be interested. I switch around from text editor to text editor quite a lot. Mousepad is what comes as default for XFCE. I used to use Pluma, which is the default in Mate, and that's fine as well. but yeah, Mousepad's just a little bit trimmer, and it has all the features that I currently need. So anyway, this is my IceWM config preferences file. You can see that like a lot of them are commented out by default. They're all things like some of these like center large windows, focus windows by clicking, confirm logout, like doc apps. I don't know if we use doc apps anymore. And I've got quite a few ones. You can delete all the ones that are commented out, but the fact that they're commented out just gives you, like, you can scroll down. And I think I did, like, I basically just scrolled down through a lot of these. Prioritize Alt Tab to urgent windows. That I don't know if that's the default, but I copied that from the where the default file is. Quick switch to urgent. Okay. Icons and titles vertically instead of horizontally. So there's a lot of these kind of things. I've not explored all of them, but I have done a pass and there's the shutdown command. That one I didn't, but I could have attached a shortcut key to. So that's the shutdown command. Yeah, okay, so it powers off the system processes like that, yeah. Because interestingly enough, I actually run Jellyfin through this PC. So if I want to watch a film from my like media hard drive, it just goes through straight to the smart TV, and I just Jellyfin it over, which is kind of useful. And also it's great for subtitles because me being a millennial, I love watching me programs with subtitles. Although I suppose some people say that's more of a Gen Z thing, isn't it? But like, we watch our subtitles, don't we? So anyway, these are things like but yeah, no, Jellyfin is great with pulling down subtitles for shows and stuff. Show workspace switching buttons on taskbar. So yeah, so I mostly use this to minimize my taskbar down. Clock time format, yes, because the default clock time format was hours, minutes, seconds, and it's kind of weird to have the seconds ticking by in on the desktop clock. I don't know why that was a default for me. Double click rolling up the window. Oh yeah, so like this is an old school thing. So you can right click on a title bar and it gives you all of the window list, the window management stuff. You can do it. You can have it as a tray icon. That's kind of wild. You can rename the title bar. That I don't see on a lot of modern window managers, and it's kind of a shame because you've got like 10 terminals open, and like a few of those terminals are used for, like a CLI application like IRISSI or top or whatever. You might just want to have a titled it appropriately. But there we go. And also you can do roll up. Where's roll up? Roll up. Where is it? There it is. Alt F12. And there you go. So it's rolled up. So it's like, there we go. And that's it. I've never found a use for it, but it's kind of cool. If anyone also uses the roll up on whatever window manager they happen to be using, let me know. Let me know what you do with it. Do you just have a mess? Do you just have a clutter of all the stuff on the desktop? So there we go. There's a whole bunch of preferences there. Pref override. This is usually like your preferences, but they override particularly the theme. So, for example, the theme that I'm using right now, it came with a desktop wallpaper that I didn't want. Like I wanted a plain black background, just nice, very utilitarian maybe. Oh yeah, for some reason I couldn't get my taskbar clock font to get picked up, so I don't know what that's all about. But I got rid of the desktop background image and I set the color. It uses the RGB like color, but it uses that weird like syntax format, which is kind of odd. But there we go. Here's what it is. I would probably just get rid of that. In fact, to be honest, I'd probably get rid of the clock. But there we go. So then we got startup. So I will just do the startup. I think you have to make the startup be able to run as executable. It runs as executable. So there we go. But I don't know if that's... I think I read in the documentation that you have to set that as a executable file. So anyway, this is the startup script, which runs as a little bash script. I use this because it doesn't have like a power manager. I just set the screensaver to off using xset. Then I set my monitor 2 as my primary monitor, because that's the monitor like this straight in front of me rather than one off to the left. Usually what I quite like to do is have my taskbar on my secondary monitor, and then my primary monitor is like the one that's straight ahead, so that something can be full screen, but I've also got visibility on the taskbar. But things like GNOME, I think, if I remember correctly, insist on your taskbar is on your primary monitor. The two are the same. So there we go. I've got my network applet, which I don't think you necessarily need. You can get away with just running your network connection on the command line. I use a wired connection, but I also have Wi-Fi, which I haven't used because, like, why would you use Wi-Fi when you've got a wired connection? But I'm not super familiar with connecting to Wi-Fi from the command line. I did Google it the other day just to see how difficult it would be, and it seems relatively straightforward. But there we go. So those are options as well that I could also link to a shortcut key, and then that would give me the information it could. Also, by the way, I do have a VPN. I do have a VPN shortcut key, shortcut combination, and basically, so it just shows me, like, is it connected? Where's it connected to? What's my IP address? What country am I in? Do I have the post-quantum VPN enabled? Transfer rate. Also, it has whether or not the kill switch is enabled, so that's kind of nice as well. Auto connect is enabled. MeshNet is disabled. All that kind of stuff. LAN discovery disabled. So it's got all that kind of stuff, which I find to be quite useful. And just gives me an overview of what my my connection status is like from my VPN. So whilst they're still legal, right? So I also, I got the file and desktop that fires up, because why would you not want your cloud syncing to be, And then I've got a little script here that just cleans up all my like cache files and odds and ends and things like that. That runs on startup, shutdown, and on a keyboard combination. So there we go. So it sets the primary monitor there. So it's a very simple startup script. I'm trying to be as minimalist as possible. I might even go further minimalist. I might even try mucking around with XFCE without a taskbar and see where that gets me, because like Drew insists on not needing a taskbar, but his lifestyle might be more aligned with a distractionless environment, right? Like I often might need to know what the time is at short notice. I might want to know my connection status periodically without necessarily prompting it, all that kind of stuff. So there we go. I can show you my list of shortcut keys as I've got here. So the menu brings up the D menu, as I was mentioning earlier. I've got the app finder on Super A. Super C is like, that's my quick, like, clear the cache if I want to, do that for whatever reason. Usually if it's just like if I'm restarting something, or, it's just handy to sort of to have there. I've got my password manager that pops up. Mousepad is on Super and N. Super and 0 is the time. Super and P is pav view control. So because you may notice I don't have a volume applet down there. And also I use super up and super down to modify my my volume, as you can see here. The reason for that, and not the multimedia keys as they go. First of all, to do a multimedia key on my keyboard, I have to do function, and it's like an F key. But also, I have these wired headphones that have a little multimedia microphone mute, headphone mute, and volume up and volume down. I am forever like sitting on these, like leaning against them, all that kind of stuff. And then it's like, oh, suddenly the sound's gone out. Why has the sound gone out? Surprise, surprise, I've sat on the bloody volume again. So this is completely like useless. This, I can sit on this to my heart's content, and I just use super up and super down. Not that I like change volumes huge amounts, but it just makes a lot of sense to me to have that. I could possibly like do something like scroll lock and pause on my top right, or like use two keys that are hardly ever, if ever, used. But really, yeah, super and up and super down. It's like I can change the volume as and when I need to, but I'm not going to accidentally do it. I just find that it's a little quirk. So we've got Steam there. We've got Super and S for the XFCE, and that's quite good. I like that because I can do select a region. The vast majority of screenshots I take are just like of a region of the screen. I don't want the entire screen because like that would be 2 monitors of junk. Active window, usually I want something within an active window. So usually it's select region and then maybe a delay before capturing if I want to like screenshot a menu or something that requires interaction. Then I've got XFCE4 terminal. That's super and enter. Used to be super and T, but the default for opening a terminal in i3, which I'm thinking about trying out, thinking about moving into tiling window managers, is super and enter. And I feel like as a standard keyboard combination, that would work quite well. Super V is my my VPN script there. I've got a script to connect and disconnect from my my VPN to super and shift and super and control, both on V. Yeah, there's just a little script, like it. So, for example, if I want to like completely remove my VPN, sometimes games, often with games, you like the VPN either adds latency or adds connection issues or something to that effect. It comes up on anti-cheat or whatever, because someone who's used that IP address before has, done some cheating or whatever. So some games, it's just easy to have like, and it's a full graceful disconnect, release the kill switch, all that kind of stuff on there. And I've got Firefox, then I've got Super and X, so if a program's playing up, Super and X, and that'll kill it. And then I've got Super and Y to copy the date. And I'll show you why I've got that, because this is like super interesting, but not super, it's not super interesting. So so if I'm typing, so I've got my mouse pad up there. So what I will do is then I can do Super and Y, and then you can see at the top, YYYMMDD date copy to the clipboard. And now all I got to do is Control V, and that's giving me my date. So when I save a document, I will often put the date into it because, it makes sense. Often, so for example, like for Freebooters episodes, I will do FB-that.mp3. There we go. That's like my naming convention for Freebooters episodes. I could do Dagoth R. Or MP4 if it's the video, and that's kind of like, typical naming convention for me. Yes, I use dashes. Do you use dashes? Underscores? Camel case? Again, another interesting one. Let me know in the in the comment section, or get in touch on the Feddy, because again, all these like little interesting computer habits I kind of live for. It's crazy, I know. So so there we go. That's just a little bit of my workflow, a small glimpse into my workflow. And as you can see, I've commented out raise volume and lower volume on the multimedia keys because I have done them in the past. This also was actually enabled by default, which uses the IceWM sort of front end for xrandr to change monitor display. So if you plug in and you want to do like a projector or something that mirrors the screen, you literally can just scroll through IceWM and do that. It's interesting that they've included that. But there we go. I like that they do all this kind of stuff through config files because it just makes life easier to, like, you can back it up as well. I sync it, all that kind of stuff. With shortcut keys, generally for the most part, because they're sort of embedded in your mind, they're not like that hard to replicate or like reimagine or like do up again, because it's just like you've got to think it, you got to do it, and then it's just in a text file. So if you share it. So is that really everything? Oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, yes, I have the right click on the menu. This is all default stuff, by the way. And then you can shut down there or whatever, shut down from the console. etc., etc., etc. So there we go. That's my IceWM. Is this a ricing video? Is that what the kids are calling it? Like a desktop tour? Anything like that? Also, there's always at least someone who leaves this comment whenever I do a video like this. Yes, my phone is de-googled. Maybe I'll do a video about it, but like I've got like, I don't know, 10 apps on my phone, so I don't do anything particularly interesting with it. It's all the basic phone stuff plus Tusky, so I go on the Feddy with it. And also, yeah, I got Antenna Pod, so there we go. Maybe I'll do a phone tour. It's not hugely interesting, but it is stock Android, but it's not signed into Google. It does get updates through the Aurora store, and I use Comaps as well. And I think I literally that's all the information there. Maybe you get another rambling video out of it. Who knows? Let me know, of course. If you have anything to comment, then definitely let me know in the comment section below, because that's a laugh. And I might do a follow-up video with whatever desktop window manager I'll end up on next time. But really, I wanted to get back to XFCE. Oh, one thing. Okay, so the by and large, like IceWM was perfect, not a problem. It did a little bit play up with GameScope. Now, I don't know if you know what GameScope is. It is an application. It's mostly for the Steam Deck, but you can get it on Linux. It's in the standard repositories of Debian, Arch, whatever distro you're probably using. You probably have access to GameScope. It's kind of amazing because I have quite a modest computer and I'm not really one for spending a lot of money on hardware. So what I do with a lot of the games that I play is I use GameScope to run a game at a 720 resolution and then upscale it to 1080, which is a lot more efficient than just running a game at the 1080 resolution. The quality, there is something of a drop-off in quality, but it's something that I'm perfectly happy with dealing with. And maybe it's something that I'll do a video on at some point in the future as well. But if you have a slow computer, look into GameScope and just look at its options, check out the documentation, do GameScope -- help and man GameScope and stuff like that. It'll give you all the information that you need, and the reason I say that is because with GameScope, it changes quite a lot on version. It's heavily developed software at the moment, so they're adding in new features all the time. Since I use the Debian stable version, I don't get those newer features. I'm perfectly happy with just the standard upscaling from 720 to 1080. It's also really good for old games that need a little bit of so, for example, if you ever play GTA 3, you'll notice, playing it on multiple monitors, you'll notice that it doesn't capture your mouse cursor because it expects you to be playing the game on a single monitor. So GameScope is great. It captures the cursor for you on that game. And the only way to get out of it is either to go into the Steam overlay or to Alt-Tab out, which is great. And then you can actually just play GTA 3 on a multi-monitor layout fantastically. You can do something similar with Wine if you run Wine in a windowed mode or something like that, but create a virtual desktop or something to that effect. But anyway, so that's about it. Been a while since I did a video, but I'm enjoying time on PeerTube. I'm enjoying hanging out on the Feddy. So I don't know. We don't really follow, subscribe here, do we? But do the stuff that you do on the Feddy, and that's all good. Okay, so I think I'm going to end the video there. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. And let me know what you think about anything that I talked about today, because, this is just a bit of a tour. But, if any of you folks have recommendations or thoughts or suggestions or, just sharing ways in which you use your computer, then I'd be happy to read it all. I love going down internet rabbit holes, reading blogs about people that have just discovered this way of computing, tiling window managers, or I use a very shortcut key based paradigm, and that I used to click on. Used to have a lot of icons around, and I love the fact that no, it's all shortcut keys and D menu and all that kind of stuff. It's just such a more efficient workflow, and it's so much easier to set up. So, and it's much less desktop dependent. So you can get the workflow, you can get the perfect workflow down on a GNOME desktop, but if GNOME desktop changes for whatever reason, or there's a buggy release that you can't get out of or whatever, then you're stuck in that that work paradigm. Whereas if you do everything by a set of keyboard shortcuts, the vast majority of window manager and desktop environments will allow you to control your workflow with keyboard shortcuts. Then you can be a lot more agnostic with what desktop environment or window manager that you work with. So there we go. That's about it from me today. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Toodaloo.